The Supreme Court merely said busing may be used as a means to break up a two-track system when after 22 years voluntary plans have not worked. The real issue is not the bus, it's us. It's a matter of race. The issue must be put in focus. What we need now is clear support of the Supreme Court's decision, and we need politicians who will be prophetic and moral leaders and not exploit the fears of their people. Fortunately, the issues that black people are raising are good for the whole nation. Some issues that the rich whites are raising are not good for blacks or the rest of the nation. Blacks contend we should have a full employment bill as an alternative to welfare and despair. Numerically, more whites are unemployed than blacks. There are 3 whites on welfare for every 1 black that's on welfare. Thus, we need a full employment bill. Secondly, we need a viable plan to save cities. There has never been a suburb without a city. Thus, if you save the cities, you save the nation.
Good morning, peace and love, and welcome to Black Press USA's morning show, where we bring you the headlines and, of course, the culture. And, of course, the Black community is continuing to mourn the loss of Reverend Jessie Jackson. And this morning, we will continue to remember his legacy with 2 powerful voices that can bring and shed light to his legacy and the importance that he had to Black Press USA. Dr. Marilyn is saying there will never be another Reverend Jessie Jackson. Rest well. And then Dr. Marilyn said SU, that was Southern University, starting off the show with a little joy, as many Black Americans yesterday celebrated Mardi Gras. I know, Orangey, you probably were out there in the streets. It's Fat Tuesday was yesterday, and so today marks Ramadan for our Muslim brothers and sisters, and of course, in the Christian faith and Catholicism, today begins Lent. So you're going to see a lot of people with black ashes on their forehead. If your poll question of the day, are you experiencing, do you practice Lent? Do you practice Ramadan? And if you do, what are you giving up? What are you giving up for Lent? That is the poll question for today. What are you giving up during this 40 days of fasting? We know Ramadan is fasting from sun up to sundown, so we pretty much know what our Muslim brothers and sisters are giving up. But if you are practicing Lent, tell me what you're giving up. Is it sweets? Is it alcohol? Is it no phone? No social media, rather? What are you, or what would you like to give up for Lent? So start dropping those comments in the chat. We have two guests coming up this morning from our Black Press family that is going to give us more insight and talk about the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson, his contribution to the Black experience, to the civil rights movement, Rainbow Push Coalition, and where does Rainbow Push go from here? And so we're going to talk about all those things this morning. But first, let's jump in since we were talking about Mardi Gras. Let's talk about what happened in New Orleans, and the conversation is still uh, beading out there. The beads, the beads. But New Orleans authorities have vowed to investigate an incident showing an individual depicting alleged racist acts during the Crew Trucks parade over the weekend. Now, footage obtained appears to show members of the crew standing on a float with two black Barbie like dolls hanging over the edge with a string of beads around their neck. So New Orleans Mayor Helena Moreno said, "Let me be clear. This display is deeply offensive, unacceptable, and has no place in our city." And so, Orangey, I don't know if you could chime in, but yeah, they had what appeared to be bead nooses around Black Dow's heads on one of the floats. And so a lot of people found it offensive. They're worried about what is happening. There you have it right there. What are your thoughts, y'all? What are your thoughts as our guest prepared to come in? Dr. Marilyn says she's giving up sugar and sweets. Orangey says, I don't practice either, but for the white Christians who practice Lent, can y'all please give up bothering black people? Orangey, Orangey. Okay. All right. Let's move on as we prepare for our guest to come in this morning. Next story. And it's basically no deal. The Department of Homeland Security remains shut down and is entering a critical phase. Meanwhile, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has made it clear that Democrats are holding the line, okay, refusing to fund the department until specific demands regarding immigration enforcement and agent identifications are met, okay? So House Leader Hakeem Jeffries is refusing to fund the DHS until ICE is reformed, with TSA and the Coast Guards going without pay. Here's the question: where do you stand on Hakeem Jeffries holding the line? Okay, here's the question: do you support him? Do you think that the Democrats should hold the line and just shut the system down? No more blank checks for agencies that lack accountability, or do they need to open the government? We can't let workers suffer. Open the government first, then fight for reforms. Do you want the Democrats to continue to hold the line, although some of our branches and agencies may be impacted from him holding the line? Or do you want them to open up the government and figure it out a different way? Let us know in the chat what you think. David Youngblood is saying Democrats should hold the line. Um, I'm with you, David Youngblood, because last time they didn't. They folded. And what did we get? We got nothing. Nobody got nothing. Same old, same old. Now you see, as this government shutdown is happening, you're seeing, the Trump administration pulling out allegedly some of the ICE units. We saw it in Minneapolis. They're saying that they're pulling it out, but if you talk to boots on the ground, they're saying something different. If you see here in California, they said they pulled out of Terminal Island. So it is having some impact on the shutdown, but you can't trust this administration. So, I'm with David Youngblood. Hold the line. Michelle Madison says, I think the government opening should be the priority. So we have a this and that. Y'all continue to tell us if we think the government should continue to hold the line and keep the government shut, or if they should open it and figure it out a different way. Let's continue to move on. Harry Dunn, former U.S. Capitol officer, um, announced that he's already raised more than $1 million from over 56,000 people across Maryland and the nation, not a dollar from corporate PACs. Okay. Now he's already raised $1 million as he continues to run for Congress to represent some of the constituents in Maryland. So it is midterms times, y'all. So make sure that you check your state secretary's website, find out what the issues are, know who's on the ballot, and exercise your right to vote. And I know that our listeners are very astute, voter savvy. So in the chat, it's y'all's jobs to make sure y'all's cousins, y'all's neighbors, if you're going to church, make sure that your church members are prepared to vote and they know what's at stake because it is critical. Dr. Mellon says she's with David. Keep it, shut it down. I'm with that too. Shut it down. All right. So I think it's safe that we can bring in our first guest because today we wanted to continue to focus on what Reverend Jessie Jackson's life and legacy is about. So our first guest is a woman who leads one of the most vital institutions in the nation's capital. Let it be I must say something. A morning show. Welcome, Denise Rolock Barnes, the second generation publisher of the Washington Informer. Good morning.
Good morning, Niall. How are you this morning?
I am, I'm hanging in there. I'm actually working to release my first documentary at the Pan African Film Festival on Friday. And
Amazing, amazing. Is that here?
no, it's in Los Angeles.
Okay, yeah, because there are a lot of film festivals, and it's one of those times when you need to give a course on how to attend film festivals, how much time it takes, how you pick the movies, and of course yours would be at the top, but because they come and they go, and I'm like, gee, I wish I could have just sat through a whole day of films, but I don't know if that's how
Yeah.
we do it,
I mean, you pick and choose which ones you want to go to, and what you want to watch, which
Yeah.
is fun. The Pan African Film Festival, I think it's one of the oldest Black institutions when you talk about film festivals, and so I'm just excited, but it is wearing me out. It is wearing me out. Good morning, Reverend Thompson.
Good morning. I'm
Thank
not.
you for
Am I? Oh,
joining us.
I'm on. I didn't realize I was on. Okay. How are you
Yeah,
all?
we
Good.
are
How are you?
good.
All right.
And if you don't know, Reverend Mark Thompson is a man who has been on the front lines of every major social justice movement for the last 40 years. And so your insight today, Greer thought, as well as myself, was important to have as well. So thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you for
I
having.
was just saying, Mark, tonight to Niall that she's produced a film that's going to be in a Pan African Film Festival in Los Angeles, and how these film festivals tend to come and go. There's some great films. We don't get to see them. I will say, selfless plug or whatever, that a lot of times they don't promote those film festivals in the Black press. And so, the audiences, I think, could be much larger, but who am I to say? Because I haven't been to one, so they're probably already large. But, I think we could grow them if we had a better alliance. So just put that in somebody's ear if you can while you're out there.
Oh, definitely. The Pan African Film Festival is co-founded by Danny Glover too.
Oh,
And
nice.
so
Okay.
yeah, it's really big. I'm really excited, but I'll be glad to release this thing on Friday for sure.
Wonderful.
Let's talk about Reverend Jessie Jackson because that is why we're here.
Right.
And I want to start with you, Denise. As the publisher of the Washington Informer, a platform your father founded to uplift the Black community, how do you view Reverend Jackson's specific impact on using Black-owned media to shape national political narrative?
Well, first of all, I got to start local, and I have to, just personally state that I was quite honored when Reverend Jackson agreed to do my dad's eulogy when he died here in DC in 1994. Reverend Jackson has always been a supporter of the Black press, Black institutions from my standpoint. When he ran for and served as our non-voting delegate, not delegate, but our non-voting member of the, what was it, states, was it Senator Reverend Thompson?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the District of Columbia. I mean, his office was based in Southeast in Ward 8. He spent a night in public housing here, where it was the project was about to be destroyed, and he spent a night there with some of the folks who were still living there without heat and other inhumane conditions. His door was always open, and we followed him. When people say that he was, he loved the spotlight and he loved the camera, we loved that he loved it because we knew that wherever he was going, it wasn't about him. It was about the cause. It was about the people he was trying to represent. It was about the issues that he attempted to expose to the public. And so, where Reverend Jackson would go, we would follow. And, I had a photograph, I was looking at it yesterday, of an award that the National Newspaper Publishers Association gave him as a Lifetime Achievement Award a few years ago when Dorothy Lavelle was our president and Dr. Chavis was, our chair as well. And so we honored him and his work and the issues that he brought to the forefront, even both of his political campaigns. Yeah, that's it. Even both of his political campaigns meant that he added some juice to an election process that often overlooks or ignores the Black vote. And he actually brought, I think, into the fold sort of this unity among all groups, because now we had an opportunity to think beyond not only about our communities, but beyond our communities. So he is my hero. I'm going to miss him dearly. That's a personal statement there. But it did lead how it evolved out of the relationship that I believe he had with the Black press and what the Black press had with him.
Yeah, I know. Anytime he came to LA, when I used to walk the halls of the Sentinel, he might be in the conference room holding a community meeting. So he did make the Black press in any city that he was in, his conference room, and a way to connect to the Black community. Mark, I want to pivot over to you. Looking at the current political landscape, what do you see as the most visible fruit of his labor in today's generation of leaders?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Neil. The most visible fruit of his labor. I don't know. I'll be very honest with you, because I think we're in a very different moment. First of all, tying it into the press, Reverend Jackson was a master at using the press, all press. And as Denise alluded to, people, sometimes would criticize him for that, always being so visible. But it was for a purpose. And now we miss him because legacy and corporate media are practically gone. They have gone completely to the other side. So there's no coverage of us other than in the Black press. And Reverend Jackson prioritized us all. He saw the relationship between the media and the movement. Dr. King, at one time, SLC headquarters was in the same building as WERD in Atlanta. And when Dr. King needed to go on the radio, he would take a broom handle and tap on the ceiling to let the WERD know upstairs he was coming up to be on the radio. So there's always been a marriage between the movement and Black media. So there's that. I'll be very honest with you, and I wish I had a more positive answer. What social media has done is end a lot of the collectivism when it comes to our movement. And so that the three of us have Instagram accounts, but the nature of social media, it rewards the individual.
Mm.
So honestly, what I see and what I lament even in some of my peers, is that everybody, you don't go, how many likes and followers can I get? I can't get a bunch of likes and followers other than for myself. And so I promote myself. I'm saying hypothetically, that's the mentality that I think exists out here. And I don't know that that's helpful to us, and that it's helpful to our movement in this time. We need to get back to a place of collectivism and collective organizing. And Reverend Jackson did all he could to bring everybody together, even when they didn't necessarily want to be together. But he did what he could to try to bring everyone together. You know, one choir, one song. And I think there's still a lot to be learned. First of all, second of all, fundamentally, one of his greatest contributions. Well, let me put it this way. I think some have picked up the mantle. We picked up the mantle in terms of his emphasis on economics with what we've been doing with Target.
Right. A good point.
So that has happened. But the Democratic Party has now been taken over by the white consultant class. And so the formula and the math that Reverend Jackson established in his campaigns and the restructuring of the political process that allowed Barack Obama to win the nomination, it would seem the Democratic Party has walked away from. Reverend Jackson registered more voters than any human being in history. And there was a reason for that. And there was a strategy to that. And unfortunately, I don't know that folks have prioritized that again, but we need to. If we're going to win, if we're going to move forward, if we're going to stop this fascism and authoritarianism, we need to heed his lessons.
You know, if I could say something on that
Go ahead.
note. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, if I could say something on that note, Mark, I read where the new chair of the DNC has committed to spend a historic amount of money focusing on registering voters. Now, Reverend Jackson didn't have that money. You know, he didn't have that behind him to register all those voters. So the what is it, the play card or the card, whatever that term is, you know, for how you do the game. You know, you have a game and there's the rules to the game. And Reverend Jackson didn't have that. You have to apologize. I forget things, but you know, if you're in a football field and the guy pulls out his thing so he knows what the game, what the play is going to be, the play card. I don't know, but anyway, Reverend Jackson had his own, and I don't believe the DNC will have the same one, but they'll have lots of money. And again, we have to see where that goes. I'm agreeing with you that his methods and his successes may not be replicated because of the cash.
Well, let me say this though, Denise. For a time, relatively speaking, the money was there, and it went to Black organizations to register voters and mobilize the votes well into maybe the early to mid 90s in the Clinton years. And that's how Clinton won. But then it stopped. It just literally stopped. And if you notice in 2024, voter suppression wasn't even discussed. It didn't even come up. It wasn't an issue. It was like it had gone away. We had solved it. Nothing was wrong. And, you know, I think was not only false, it was detrimental. And so now I just pray that people go back to a level of appreciation of what he understood, what he was trying to do. When he ran in 84 and 88, he went to Iowa and worked. That's where the Rainbow Coalition came from, worked with white farmers, and they supported him. White laborers, white labor union members in Michigan supported him. He was building that Rainbow Coalition, and we need to get back to that.
And so did the coal workers in Appalachia and places like that. Thank you, Dr. Sturdivant, for the word. Yes, playbook was the one I was looking for. But she also went into high schools all across this country. He went into high schools and asked students, "Are you registered to vote?" Vote. Asked them, reminded them that you are somebody and that your vote counts. And so, I mean, Ballou High School, right around the corner from where our office is, over here in Southeast in Ward 8, he was there, talking to those young folks. So, I mean, he was everywhere.
I want to one of our David Youngblood is saying, so to your point, Reverend Thompson, social media has made experts and those without any knowledge equal, leaving us ignorant. But we're talking about too, in a sense, how he helped build Black political power. I want to go back to 1972 in Gary, Indiana. The National Black Political Convention was a convening of a lot of individuals that we see in office today in their senior years. But he was at the forefront of that. When you think about the National Black Political Convention, we're talking about building Black political power. Do you see like a resurgence of that happening now, in the vein of what Reverend Jesse Jackson and those leaders tried to do back in 1972? I'll ask you that, Mark.
I think the potential is there. And as Denise knows, we tried that some years ago in Washington, D.C. with the Umoja Party. I think the potential is there. But when you have the situation that we have now, and you have singular, fascist, and authoritarian, a one-party state, I think it's a little more challenging to convince people that we need to either start another party or do something different. And I don't have an answer for that right now, but I will say that you got to get rid of the fascism and the authoritarianism, and there does need to be a level of unity in doing that. Now, if the Democratic Party leadership under the influence of the consulting class won't do it, the masses won't have a choice but to do something different. And that isn't just Black folk. Because what's going on right now? I mean, you win an election, and then 8 days later, you got eight Democrats cutting a deal with Republicans. That's not right. I just don't know that people are ready. There's something about this country. We are so ingrained in a culture in this two-party situation. There just really seems to be a resistance to doing something different. Other countries in the world who the United States calls less sophisticated than the United States have multi-party democracy. Why don't we have one here? These same countries elect women to office, to the highest office, and we just can't do it here. So there's still a lack of sophistication when it comes to America, and white women either going with Trump or being on the fence. Shot a white woman in the head in Minneapolis, y'all. What else do you need to see? Shot a white man, a regular everyday ICU nurse, assassinated him in broad daylight on a video, and y'all still don't get it. So there has to be something that inspires a change in the mentality and the culture of many in this nation. Democrats are supposed to win the midterms, but in the past 48 hours, I don't know, and they're going to suppress the vote.
Why do you say?
Well, they already have voter suppression plans in place for this coming fall. Are we poised to stop it in Reverend Jackson's holy name? He never stopped talking about voting rights and voter suppression and preserving the vote. So, everybody's going to memorialize him, and we're all go through all of that. Yesterday, I was very emotional. Today, I feel like fighting. you know, because that's what he would want. That's what he would want us to do.
But you mentioned in the last 48 hours, you said you don't know. What happened in the last 48 hours to make you
The
feel
Democrats haven't showed a whole lot of backbone, and the Republicans have pledged to engage in more voter suppression. That's it. That's pretty much all there is to it. So I'm concerned about what the fall will bring, and you got to have a check on this out of control administration. And if the Democrats don't win the midterm, not that the Democrats are great, y'all, but you know, we don't have anything else. And you know, mistake we always make, we always want to talk about independent politics and organize independent politics and independent political parties in the year of the election. It don't work like that. If we're going to build an independent political movement or a black political party, anything else, we need to start today so that within the next 2 years, it can be up and running. But you can't start that in February for a November election. It that math doesn't math.
Yeah, the math ain't math that.
Can I ask a question? Because you just made me think about something, and I've never had this thought, but you know, you have the Republican Party, you have the Democratic Party, and then you have Black people, right? Black voters. And I wonder, you know, I know we tend to support the Democratic Party, but going back to the question about, you know, the convention, and also what we once had was the Black Leadership Roundtable and a Black agenda. Whether we're in a party or not, we're a block of votes. You know, we're a block of votes that can exercise those votes a certain way. If we had what I think Black people are looking for are the voices like Reverend Jackson and Dr. King and others who sort of gave some sense of direction on how Black people should exercise their right, exercise that vote, despite the party affiliation when they go into the polls. Sometimes I think that we, you know, have a sense that we're not included and we're not excluded. We are Black people with a vote that happen to be Democrats. You know what I mean? Is there a distinction that you see there? Because you keep, you know, talking about the Democrats, but I don't know, Black folks always feel that they are really a part of that group, even though we are registered.
Well, we're not acting like we aren't either. You know, and that's our own, Du Bois called it our own double consciousness. You know, it's interesting. Oftentimes we do feel left out, but we won't leave either, Denise. So that's that's something we have to figure out. I think the younger generation is more prone to that. But what social media does is propagandize the younger generation to lean toward, well, maybe some of us should be Republican, and that's not the answer either. So until we are no longer under the influence of algorithms, we need to get back to the conversation about what it is we should be. You're right. You know, many African Americans have issues with the Democratic Party, but in a two-party system, it's very, very difficult to find an alternative. And then we're always, as I said, right back up where we are. Trump got in 2024. It's 2026. As bad as it was him get, let's look at the chronology. He gets in. Nobody expected that because people thought Kamala was going to win, and she may have. You know, my show account, Make It Plain, not my personal account, got banned from TikTok because Joy co-hosted on my show a segment with the Election Truth Alliance where we talked about some of the anomalies during the 2024 election in November, right? Now, TikTok and their algorithm, so we don't want anybody talking about issues about voting and, you know, whether or not there was stuff going back to January 6th. We want to talk about January 6th. We're talking about this election. And so the algorithm took me off. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to die because, you know, I just got another account, but, you know, that's TikTok. But I'm just saying that to say that. So here's the chronology. 2024 happens, November. We're all devastated Everybody's traumatized. It's like we're frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Coming out of that, winning a couple of special elections, Democrats winning in normally red situations, that's inspiring. Then some Democrats in the Senate sell us out. It's been that up and down. And before you know it, it's 2026. And so even Denise, you're right. Even those of us who deep down feel we got to do something different, this clock keeps going and we're not moving fast enough with the clock because there's always another election. So until we get really on time and decide, look here, y'all, we've had enough. This is what we're going to do. I'll give an example. And I know Brother Hakeem, he's my brother. But what does the consultant class say to Democrats? Don't say abolish ICE, because that sounds like on the police. No, it does not. It's two different things. You don't hear kids, young people in the streets say defund the police. I mean, that had its moment. That we know that there are police issues, but that was a phrase. To be honest with you, those who were opposed to defund the police popularized and promoted the slogan more than those who came up with the slogan by fighting against it. You know how you can make more noise about something than was ever even intended. Okay, so there's that. So now there's abolish ICE. White people are saying abolish ICE. The two of you today, we'll take them off. They can go today, put on a mask, and go apply for ICE and get a job like that because they're just hiring any mercenary that they could. Now, you don't see them anymore on the screen. So you leave them off. Y'all go down, Denise and Neil, go down and apply for ICE job today and watch what happens. Okay, you can put it back on. That's on the point. I just trying to dramatize.
Mark is producing. I love it. You producing now.
That's called visual aid, like we in the classroom.
I hear you. But I do want.
If you all wanted to be like Walter White went and infiltrated the KKK, remember that for the crisis? Walter White here. Y'all go, Denise. Yeah, y'all, we gonna go. I bet y'all will get in there today. And then come back and tell us what's going on this because they're not even screening nobody.
No.
So wait a minute, Democrats, why can't you call for the evidence? Well, we got to be careful because some folk like law and order. That's not law and order anymore. That's not killing people who aren't even. First of all, you're supposed to be looking for illegal immigrants. You can't find none, so you're locking up people who aren't even illegal. You're killing people. Did you all know this? Did y'all know this as black women? And I did a story on this yesterday in Puerto Rico. I went in Puerto Rico. I had a guest on. ICE deported. So temporary protective status for Haitians is also in Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico is U.S. territory. ICE deported 4 Haitian women and sent them back to Haiti, where they were getting temporary protective status from because of the violence in Haiti. Google it. All 4 of those Haitian women were decapitated.
Jesus Christ.
When they were deported. Now, I'm not saying by ICE, but ICE sent them back into danger. And watch this. They were decapitated directly on the border between the Dominican Republic and Haiti. That ain't no coincidence. That means whoever decided to kill them, say, you know what? If we kill them on the border, they won't know which jurisdiction has responsibility for investigating this. And that's exactly what's happened. So the labor union in Puerto Rico, the SEIU branch in Puerto Rico is calling for an investigation, but it's like Puerto Rico, well, we didn't deport them, it was ICE. Dominican Republic, it was on Haiti's border. Haiti is on Dominican Republic. What is that? So you can't abolish ICE. They're just marauding, reckless, no jurisdiction, no guardrails. So Democrats, so that's why. So when you ask me what I mean when I say about us being in trouble, young people decide not to vote behind that kind of stuff.
That was the point. That was the point I was going to make, Reverend Thompson, is that, when we talk about, no choice, Black folks, a lot of them have exercised that choice. And that choice has been not to vote, not to play, not to participate. And it's a large number, who said, I'm not going to be a part of this. And so rather than saying, we need a third party and folks get involved with this, their party is no party. I ain't doing this anymore.
Yeah,
Well, let me jump in here. Let me jump in here. We have some comments coming in. Orangey says, in my opinion, this midterm election will depend on how the Democrats handle the government shutdown. ICE just killed another Black woman in Georgia. She was a school teacher, and everyone is silent. I think to the point what you're saying, Reverend Thompson, about these women that were deported. So I want to ask you guys our poll question this morning. You touched on Hakeem Jeffries. Do you think that the Democrats should hold the line and keep the government shut down, the small portion that they do have shut down, or do you think that they should open the government and find another way to do it? I'll start with you, Denise.
Well, that's a tough question for me because I know people who aren't working right now. So, but I think they need to hold the line. I really do. I think that we've got to. People won't feel the pressure until they feel it, right? And if we, but I don't like. Have issues with it being the fault of the Democratic leadership that's making this happen. It's policy that we've got to fight against, and we've got to use the tools that we have. And that seems to be, from a congressional standpoint, the tool that we have right now.
Reverend Thompson, shut it down or open it up?
I think that they should keep it shut down. And to Denise's point, the people want to see some backbone. They want to see some pushback, not this compliance, not this go along to get along. And I'm telling y'all, it's coming from one place. It's coming from this consultant class, these pollsters who think that that's the way to do things. No, show some backbone, show something. And Denise is right. When people decide not to vote, that's another decision, but that ain't the answer either. See, and let me just show you all this math just real quick, and I'll be brief, Neil, because I know you host a show and I don't want to talk too much.
No, take your time. You're helping me.
I'm very proud. I'm very proud of Neil. Neil is doing an excellent job on this show.
Thank
you. I hope she keeps it up. And y'all, we used to have to be validated by legacy media and corporate media. Neil is qualified to host the Today Show or the CBS Evening News. But we don't need that no more. We have our own. And I mean that from my heart. I'm very, very proud of her. And she's doing
likewise. Since she stepped into this space, I've been impressed.
Well, even before then, she was good. She was just good. And she needs to be on this space. And I'm saying that somebody who's done this is meaningful to me, for me to watch somebody, rather than me being my face in front of camera all the time, for me to watch somebody that I enjoy. So I enjoy Neil.
Thank you.
No question about it. So watch this, y'all. In this two-party system, even though the Democratic Party has all its contradictions, African Americans make up the deciding vote pretty much in the Democratic Party. We influence every election. If every Democrat, and most Democrats agree on most subjects, even, there's some minor disagreements. African Americans, Jewish Democrats, white progressives pretty much agree on most things. If everybody votes, we're just about almost 3/4 of the electorate. So what you do is, and when the Republican Party and MAGA representing, let's say, 1/4 to 30%, that's all. The goal is to suppress the Democratic coalition vote. Don't think about the party right now. Just think about the coalition. African Americans, young whites, younger generation of whites, especially white women. 40 to some odd percent of Latinos. They some of them went with Trump because they didn't know any better. Now they realize they made a mistake. See, in their psychology, well, if I vote for him, he won't deport all of us. That ain't work out. So you put that in that box, you suppress that, then that number on the right goes up. It has more magnitude because those numbers even out. And so when those of you say no party, don't vote, you actually are still voting,
right?
Because you're increasing the weight of the number on the right. I hope did I explain that well, Neil? I just want people to understand what happened when you don't vote. Then that helps those other votes win. So you're actually not voting. You're not voting.
Right.
You're making that 1/4 to 30% of the far right wing, those who are white and don't care about Renee Good and Alex Pretty getting killed. So I'm going back to that.
And don't forget about Keith Porter, okay? Keith
Well,
Porter
no.
was the first one.
I'm saying the two white ones, Niel. No, that's important. We ignore Keith Porter.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I'm saying the two white ones, Lyndon Johnson told Dr. King, look, man, I gave y'all the 64 Civil Rights Act. I can't do 65 Voting Rights Act 1 year later. And then in Alabama, they started killing white folk. And he had no choice. And it made sense because people said, wait. Y'all killing white folk? We got to do something about this. I'm raising the two white ones because if you all as white folks don't understand that you will be killed, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? That could have been anybody, right? That could have been your relative, your friend. And as a matter of fact, the Customs and Border Patrol agent, not an ICE agent, who killed Alex Pretty, they are members of the same union, the American Federation of Government Employees. And that's what Trump wants to foment. He wants a civil war. And the civil war, we say, was a war, brother versus brother. You got folk out here killing each other, don't even know who they are, and didn't make any sense. So that's the only reason I'm bringing that up. I'm talking to the white people, Neil, the white voters, who some of whom are still in denial about their own. I mean, and last thing I'll say on that, the death of Keith Porter, I think that so when you in this moment killing, I don't even think the reaction Trump wants is from the killing of a black person. I think that there's a purposeful reason for killing white people, and this is it. He wants a civil war. You know, Trump believes that Antifa is a real organization. So he wants, if you kill white people, then white Antifa gonna rise up with a revolution, and then he'll have the real war that he wants. But it just doesn't exist.
Right.
So Mark, before we move too far off of that point, I want people to when we think about voting and elections and midterms and what have you, you know, I don't want us to think that there's only one person that we're voting for, one position. We're all right now facing really local elections, very, very local elections. And there are people in cities and states and counties who don't even know who their political leaders are because they never voted. They don't pay attention. And we've got, you know, if we're serious about this thing, we really do have to start paying attention from the ground up. Our school boards, we keep saying it, but we're not doing it. And so when things don't go the way we want them to go, we want to rightfully so, the president. But what about our mayors and our city council members and our school board members and our aldermen and what have you? You know, are you participating in those elections? And that's what we're looking at in this year. In some of the midterms, what's happening in our own backyards.
Yeah, and I think I want to add to that. I think it's not what we're voting for, it's what we're voting against. You brought up school boards, right? We know that this whole conversation of the erasure of Black history started with simple school boards and a false concept of critical race theory.
Correct.
And because of all of those school board members, Republicans and MAGA replacing school board members, we have a conversation of where Black history is being erased. And it started at a local level from a concept of critical race theory. So it's not so much what we're voting for, it's what we're voting against.
Right.
And we're voting against MAGA, systemic racism, and Donald Trump and his clan. That's what we're voting against, period.
Well, but the good news is I think we're seeing when you get down, when people are focused locally, that's what they do. And in some of these races, including the one we won, the Democrats won in Texas the other day in a red district, you know, and that's comforting because that means you have local communities that are not under the influence of algorithms that are standing up in terms of down ballot races. Yes. And let's just remind everyone that police are governed locally. So if the police are out of control in your community, that's your city council and your mayor.
Right.
That means there's some Black folk you might need to get rid of if they're not willing to hold the police accountable. That's one. book bans, curricula, that's school board. All right. So those are people too, locally. That's not a national piece. And lastly, those local officials appoint people to election boards who decide when polls are open, when early voting happens. One more, state legislatures do redistricting. So state representatives are as important as congressional representatives. So you're right, Denise. We have to be holistic, and we can't just be in a position of anger and emotion when national Democrats don't do what we want them to do. It's not just about shutdown. The question becomes, are we making this a part of our daily lives to the point where we are examining elected officials on that local level, state legislatures, mayors, city council, school boards, what they're doing with and for our people in those local places? And some of us still have not bought into the notion that voting is 12 months a year, even if you're not voting each of those months. Politics is 365 days a year. Somebody once said, if you don't do politics, politics does you. We got to do politics 24/7.
It's
So
called,
I got a job
it's called,
to go.
let me say this, it's called civic participation.
That's right.
Civic participation is 365. Before I hear you saying,
I know I talk too much. I'm sorry. I know y'all not gonna hear me come back again.
Let's bring this full circle, though. Let's bring this full circle. If you could you share a personal moment or memory, whether it's personal or just something you saw in the news about Reverend Jessie Jackson? Denise, we'll start with you.
Well, I can't say anything more. Well, two things. One, I mentioned the fact that he delivered the eulogy at my dad's funeral, which was an amazing story that he told about the relationship that he had with my dad, Dr. Calvin Rollard. But also, just watching him in schools across the city, Richard Wright Public Charter School, Ballou Senior High School, where he would come and talk to young people, leave money for them, encourage them that they were somebody, encourage them to read, encourage them to vote. That's really boots on the ground kind of work that Reverend Jackson did, that I appreciated so much and enjoyed watching as the young people who can be, how we can be when we were kids. We can be somewhat disrespectful sometimes, but he grasped an audience and they paid full attention to the words that he said, and that keep hope alive still rings true.
Mm-hmm. Reverend Thompson.
Well, I was doing fine until you asked me that. I don't know when I felt as lonely as I did yesterday. We were very close, and to watch somebody on Sesame Street, and then when saying I am somebody, and at that time I didn't even know that there was a reason for me to say that, or a need for us to say that on behalf of ourselves. And then before I'm even an adult, for him to show an interest in me and take an interest in me in my life, both personally and politically, was one of the greatest blessings I could have ever had. And I just want to remind all the young people, people can care about you and love you and take care of you, but there's no substitute for having people to believe in you. When someone believes in you, they never give up on you.
That's right.
And that's what he did for many of us, and he did that. He did that for me, even though I was unworthy. But I'm grateful for that, and so that's my my personal memory. When you have somebody of that magnitude in your life and they outrun you to glory, the first question you ask is, what am I going to do now? And so I've spent these past 24 hours really pondering that and thinking about that. My ex-wife used to say, Mark, all your friends, Don Thompson and Dick Gregory and Rem Jackson, they all old. And you got these old friends, and when they die, you're not going to have no friends. And it used to hurt my feelings. It still does. But there's a partial truth to that, because as my elders and those I was very close to make their transitions, I got to count on y'all to be my friends.
I was about to say, Mark, I mean, I'm an older friend, but I still consider myself, I hope you do too, a friend as well.
Yes. No, I do. But
I
I'm
remember
gonna,
when.
yeah, no, I know you do. But I'm gonna need you going forward. I thought I was prepared for this.
Yeah.
I spent time with him in the hospital. I thought I was prepared. In fact, funny story, when I was there, he tried to get me to break him out the hospital. But I miss him. I miss him terribly.
Well, I'm so honored to have both of you on the show. I hope that I can grow to be both of y'all's friends because I appreciate the legacy that you guys continue to put forth for all of us to learn, to grow. So thank you, Reverend Mark Thompson, Denise Brolock Barnes from
Can
the
I say one more thing,
Washington Informer. Sure.
Yeah, Mark asked, I know it was, jokingly, but asked people to go down and apply for a job with ICE. And in honor of Dr. King, Dr. King and Reverend Jackson, I would ask Reverend Thompson to ask people to go down to their election board and apply for a job as a poll watcher.
Oh, I like that.
That's where we need to be on election day, watching those polls. And not let others do it for us.
Look, I mean, message said that is the call to action, y'all. That is the call to action. Participate and exercise your civic duty. We'll be back tomorrow with more news, more headlines, and more culture.
Please be back tomorrow, Neil. We're proud of you. Keep it up. Please.
Thank you so much. And for the latest in Black news, you can find news op-eds from Reverend Thompson. You can find news stories from the Washington Informer, all at blackpressusa.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow.